Before we were called Mexicans or Indians, we were native. Here. Now we're poisoned by malted hops and barley, they call it beer. Broken and swollen feet, tired from walking this trail of tears. Muzaska. Money and greed lead us on the search for gold. Forgot about the ways of old, forgot about the stories told.
This is Gary Atensi with CNTV, and today we're in Denver, Colorado. We're at Art from Ashes. I'm here with the Executive Director, Catherine O'Neill. Catherine, since 2003, you have been empowering youth out there through creative expression. Tell me, first of all, who we've got on board with us here today.
Well, Gary, this is Lindsay, and Lindsay Weiss is our Phoenix Rising Program Manager, and Phoenix Rising is the first of our creative arts programs, which is the power of spoken word and poetry. And Chance Crow, who has been with Art from Ashes as a youth poet for 4 years, and he is now our youth representative on the board of directors and has become quite famous as a spoken word poet in the community.
With over 4,000 youth that you all have served here through the organization, which is quite a feat, let me ask you, first of all, what brought on the inception of this program?
Art from Ashes began really pretty much 18 years ago when I started freelancing. I created, founded, and ran Poesis, the poetry newsletter and calendar of events for Colorado, back in the 90s. And somebody called me and said, my mother just died in an institution and she wrote a great book of poetry. Can you publish it? And I was very reluctant, but I had to tell her, well, I'm not that kind of a publisher. And I said, but I'd love to see her poetry. She was in a poetry therapy class. So I was on the board of directors at a therapeutic organization. I'm a poet, and I was producing poetry and trying to generate more interest for poetry. So, of course, my ears pricked up. I found out all I could about poetry therapy. It's been around for hundreds of years. There's a national association, and I just delved into it, learned as much as I could. And at the residential treatment center, I went and applied it, and the kids just ate it up. They just loved it.
The success and the backbone of the whole program are some of these workshops you all put together, as well as the programs. Tell me a little bit about those.
The workshops are typically for young people between the ages of 14 and 24. We can work with about 20 young people or less, because we want to make sure that the first part of expression, connection, and transformation is covered. The expression piece is so important. Young people's voices in our society in particular, but pretty much around the world and throughout history, have not been heard or respected. And so a great deal of our 2-hour program is spent listening. Paul Tillich said the first duty of love is to listen. And so we're very careful to make sure every voice gets heard. A bit more than 20 makes that unwieldy. So the second piece, which is connection, is when young people start to speak with their true voice and tell their stories and listen to one another. And again, listening is a skill that you have to practice. It's a discipline, because our minds work so fast that they start to hear through the poetry, oh my gosh, I didn't know that about this person, or we have more in common than I thought we did. They also connect with adult facilitators, and we bring in guest artists from all over the community who perform spoken word and guide and motivate the youth through their own writing. The transformation piece, because we so strongly believe that words have the power to create, that what you speak you can draw into your world, and many of the young people we serve have been victimized from a very early age, and that's why they're acting out as either victims or perpetrators. So listening to their words, they speak the language of victimization oftentimes. And we encourage them through poetry to speak the language of power, of the creative genius, because every single one of us was born a creative genius.
I notice sometimes in the poetry itself, you can actually see at the beginning of the poem there, you get some real emotion. You get some anger, you get some resentment, and then a lot of them actually end with an empowerment type of feeling. I mean, they start out really expressing themselves of what they feel, but then at the end it comes on and says that, basically I've been through this and now I'm more empowered for it. Some of the programs, are they done here locally, or do they actually go out to the detention centers? Do you work with the schools? What type of things take place here under the roof?
We go to wherever the youth are. We do have workshops here. It's rare. Normally we would like to accommodate the agency, accommodate the youth, and we found that we just get much more participation when we just go to them right at the source. It's hard for bus transportation. It's hard for younger ones to get here when they're in middle school, things like that. So if we just go straight to where they are, and we've been in detention facilities, treatment centers, crisis centers, schools, low income to very well off schools, the gamut actually. And I've done them with, our age range is 14 to 24, but I've done them with little ones too, so.
As an experienced writer, you've been out there and actually seen the written word have its power. Tell me some of the responses you get after people hear some of the poetry you've done.
One thing I try to focus on when I write is I want my poems to connect with people emotionally. And also, like, I don't only want to go out there and say something that people can say, oh, that was a really creative punchline, you know. I want to say something that when the audience leaves, they're like, wow, I felt that before, you know. So a lot of the times when I get at the end of a performance, I get a lot of people who tell me, you know what, I really like that one. That one almost made me cry because I felt that before. I've been there before. I know how you felt when you were in that position, and that's, I don't know, that's mainly what I'm looking for. I don't only do it just to perform or to highlight performances. I do it for the emotional connection. Your voice is powerful, and the things you have to say, people need to hear.
I believe a lot of people, they get into situations, they become isolated. Right. They basically isolate themselves from their family, from people that want to help them. You're basically giving hope to people in a way because they are now being heard. The youth are highly benefited by this. But what about adults? Do you have adult workshops as well?
Yes, in fact, I was asked the first few years after I started Art from Ashes in 2003, every adult who came to a youth workshop said, well, do you do this for adults? I'd love to participate. And they would join in because we don't have adults come and observe. We have adults come and participate. And they said, oh, I can't believe I let this go. I've been in therapy for 12 years, and this is the first time that I've resolved it. So what we did was we started adult workshops. They're sessions, 6-week sessions, once a week for 6 weeks. And we charge adults $175 for that 6 weeks, and that money goes directly to support the youth. We've just started afternoon seminars for the people who can't commit to a 6-week because they travel a lot or their work doesn't allow it. They can come for a full afternoon and take their own workshops. But the nice thing about working with adults is the same transformation happens. We all need it. And it's much more difficult for adults to do this process. And part of it is just the neurology of the brain, the brain science. Young people, their frontal cortex isn't fully developed until about the age of 24 or 25. And so they're still open and they're still in touch with their creativity and vulnerability, whereas adults, we're very rational and we're very protective of ourselves, unwilling to become vulnerable, and poetry gets you there right away. We have 3-minute writing prompts, and in 3 minutes you can spill a story that you've been trying to hang on to and pretend doesn't hurt for your whole life, and in 3 minutes, through metaphor, you've been able to really create a space for healing.
Lindsay, you've been with the program 3.5 years. Obviously, in 3.5 years, you've heard many, many stories out there. You've got a lot to share, possibly, but can you pick one out and just tell me something that you basically remember a little bit?
One of my favorite stories involves a young boy who was housed at Family Crisis Center, which is a treatment center for youth that have been mistreated or are emotionally disturbed for one reason or another. We all gave out to all of the youth these poet stickers that we have, just as a little present. And I gave him one, and he said, Miss, I really, I need another one. And I was like, no, you don't get another one. Everybody just gets one. And he said, okay, that's fine. On the outside of this journal I have here that I had before, I had written my suicide note, and I wanted to cover it up, which was absolutely impossible for me to say no, to not give him another one. And he has continued, after he's been discharged, he's continued to come to the First Friday performances and has really made this part of his life and has really, really done well.
Tell me about the Phoenix Rising poetry. What is that?
Well, Phoenix Rising is the name of the program because of the power of the mythological symbol. A phoenix self-immolates every 100 years and then rises from the ashes, a magic bird with healing in the tears and power in the song. So for us, that's perfect for what happens through this process, because young people rise up from the ashes of despair, which is where many of them live, and we're holding out our hands and saying, "No, you're magic, you're beautiful, rise up," and they're amazed by their own power, and that's where the hope and healing comes from.
What about the Casting Shadows Theater?
It is a wonderful program where we get to use play. I think that so many people, and this was amazing when we were even just test piloting it as adults, we would leave just feeling so happy and refreshed, and we would do it on Friday nights at 7 o'clock, so we're all exhausted. Nobody really wants to be there at the beginning, and by the end, it was just the most amazing, wonderful thing, and we've been merging that in with, because we don't want to lose the power of the writing.
You were also telling me about another way to make the program sustainable. Tell me about this new program you're working on.
We received funding from the Swanee Hunt Family Foundation to start a new business that we will be creating separately that will be for profit, and the monies will, 100% of the monies will feed to the youth programs. And it's called the Apostrophe Factor. And we take our methods of expression, connection, and transformation and make a professional curriculum out of it, because it works, like I said, it works with youth, with very little kids, the elderly, and adults. This process, the Phoenix Rising process, can actually change your brain so that people, as they become more creative and exercise their right brain, create whole brain integration and think more clearly, learn how to manage their perceptions, and become more productive as they become more creative.
Tell me about the monthly fundraisers. Tell me how people out there can get involved.
We make it fun to give to Art from Ashes, basically because we're all really fun. We have a good time. We believe in the power of laughter and play, as Lindsay said. We have concerts. We have events like the Running of the Gays, where the gay community puts on high heels and runs for 3 blocks and gets sponsorships, like in the Colfax Marathon. That's for our youth programs at Rainbow Alley for LGBTQ youth. We also are selling Rockies tickets this year, and every first Friday we have our youth come and do performance workshops and then go out into various art galleries and let the people in the community know that's our final reconnection or reintegration for these marginalized youth, is to get them back into the community. And when adults begin to listen to the hearts of young people instead of believing the stories that they hear in the media or all the bad news or being afraid of how they look or the appearance or behaviors, they actually hear the hearts and what the young people dream of and believe in. That connects the community to the youth, and we love doing that. We also love having volunteers, because we only have 3 people on staff, so we need board members and volunteers with skills that help us with marketing. The economy for the last 3 years has caused a real decline in giving to nonprofits. Many of our grants have gotten cut by the various administrations in order to save funding for the state and the city. So we would appreciate very much people whose hearts just give, and they give from the wallet where it really counts, because we're doing amazing things with the money. We are saving young people's lives.
We have a natural resistance to be analyzed by therapists. We have a natural resistance to have somebody trying to get inside, whereas actually for us to get inside and put that on paper has got to be very empowering.
That's why we call ourselves facilitators. We are not therapists. We actually help young people discover their own power and ability to heal. And that works, like Lindsay said, across the gamut. Very, very young children, all the way up to the elderly. But what we've discovered is just how great this is for adults to be able to see for themselves, you know, the direction that they want to take for healing and transformation in their lives.
And folks, keep in mind there, the website is at the bottom of the screen as well. Their contact information is there, and you can go to the website as well. Obviously, a lot of participation is required, and not only from the people here under the roof, but viewers out there like yourself who can get involved and actually give back to their community, and basically in so many ways. Obviously your financial donations are very much used here, but also your time is important, possibly in kind if you can do that. And they partner up with hundreds of organizations out there, and they would love to hear your input as far as how you can help the program. You can go to the website there. You're going to see their events calendar. You can see what they've got coming up and what's going on. You can actually even click on the links there and take a look at some of these poems that the youth have put together. They will absolutely touch your heart, and you'll understand just kind of a small percentage of what's going on under the roof here. This is Gary Atencio with CNTV, and if you don't know, now you know.